back in 2020, ANC stalwart Mavuso Msimang spoke out against those who were advocating for the removal of the then Public Enterprises Minister, Pravin Gordhan. Now, Msimang described their actions against Gordhan as a test of the wills, in which President Cyril Ramaphosa could not afford to back down. Deputy President of the African National Congress Veterans League, Mavuso Msimang, joins us now for a reaction on the passing of the struggle stalwart Gordhan. Mr. Msimang, thank you so much for your time. First of all, condolences. And if you can please just perhaps talk to us about the life and times of Minister Gordhan as a struggle stalwart.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. You start with a quote that I'd completely forgotten about thanks for the condolences which we'll pass on to the family. A good man has passed. A patriot, when I say a patriot, I mean it would be good for as many people as possible who are interested in the history of South Africa if they were to know the sacrifices he made, the role he played in the liberation of the struggle. There was a time when he was the most looked after person among the people who were still within the country. And there are just amazing tales of how if they'd caught him, it would have been really, really bad news for the struggle at the time. But he soldiered on, a really good man. That's the patriotic stuff about him. But it extends also to achievement. I don't know that any transformation that is as comparable to what he did at SARS would be easy to cite. I think many people in 1994 went into government, went into their assignments with a view to transforming their institutions. He achieved in pulling up a very ordinary government department and making it into one of the 5 most effective revenue collecting services on earth. I don't know if it was number 5, but it was that's cited by authorities. It was a phenomenal transformation that took place when he was the CEO of SARS. He became a minister of finance. To get into the shoes of a Trevor Manuel is no mean achievement. I mean, he picked up the flag and moved forward. He was an outstanding finance minister. There came a time when we were having the difficulties that still continue today of corruption and dicey leadership and so on. He was removed and somebody else put in. The markets crashed, and in no time he was back in harness as Minister of Finance. What I also need to say, when there's so much corruption and talk about corruption, the mention of Pravin Gordhan is the antithesis. It is just, there was no stauncher supporter of the anti-corruption campaign than himself. A very principled person, a very big achiever, by the way, I said that already, but a person that you could always rely on. A good person has left this country, and I think we all dip our banner in salute in honor of his passing.
And Dr. Msimang, you just spoke about some of those difficulties that you encountered, and I actually want to take us back to 2020, where you also spoke out against those who were advocating for the removal of the then Public Enterprises Minister, Mr. Gordhan. Talk to us about this time, and I'm sure you also had some interaction with him. Just what headspace was he at during this time? And I'm sure this was a very difficult time, not just for you and him, but also just for South Africa as a whole.
I don't even need to get myself any close to him. I was really talking from a professional perspective. You know, he traveled to London. I think this is the incident that you are referring to, en route to some other assignments in Europe or in America. And then he gets a call that he must come back. And he abandons his mission, which was approved by the president, then Jacob Zuma. And there are stories about him all of a sudden doing some funny things. I can't remember whether they said he was sabotaging anything. It was just, it was so bad to act like that. It was bad for the country. And we said, please don't do that. Try something else. In fact, the president then was contradicted by his own security minister, who didn't know anything about what the president was saying was the reason for the removal of Pravin. So that's why the veterans said, guys, let's really stop playing with such an important responsibility of running the country. Here is a gifted person. Here is a committed person. Here is a competent person running the country completely away from factionalism and any of those things. And how can it be? And the veterans who were not inside of the ANC at the time, because the ANC leadership of the time was recognizing people who were really completely crazy, I can tell you. And so we stood aside, and we soon got to be named the Veterans 101. There were a lot more veterans in that group of people who said, no, you know, South Africans have to know where those who have been in the struggle for a long time think. It's not what the government at the time was showing. So in the interest of letting the people know, we said, let's call this fuss, let's call this thing, let's call it out. And we made the statement, and we supported his continuation and completely denounced his removal.
All right, that is Deputy President of the African National Congress Veterans League, Mavuso Msimang. Thank you very much indeed for your time on the program this hour.